Hi, my name's Oliver. I'm married to Rachel. I've got 4 kids and we live in Ockhold. We've been coming to the Forge for about 15 years now, and one of my roles is I'm an elder of the Forge. So I was brought up in a Christian house, and as a child I went to what would have been called a free church or an evangelical church. I also went to a Baptist church during my childhood. As a student I went to a Church of England. And when we moved down to Suffolk here about 15 years ago, I came to the Forge, which is a different church. And actually the Forge was a very different experience to all the churches I've been to before, and they'd all been different. Honestly, it didn't really click with me. That the presentational style and the worship was very different than what I was used to. But actually quite early in our experience at the Forge, there was a talk which was titled something along the lines of why we do what we do on a Sunday. And it explained the thinking behind why it was done like that, why the styling was that, why the language was like that. And actually for me that was really helpful to understand that actually there was integrity in why it was presented that way. And actually although it was different, to my past experience, that wasn't wrong. It was just a different way of approaching a Sunday morning service. So because I was brought up in a Christian house and went to church, there's a point in which your life where you never question, it's just normal, you don't question the way you see your life or your faith. And as I grew a bit older, particularly going through university, you experienced different people, different theologies, different church backgrounds. And I personally really enjoyed having highlighted which parts of my faith were just what I received from my parents and having the opportunity to explore different ways of doing faith. As I've grown older now, over the last 20 years from that point, I've really enjoyed seeing my own faith develop and change. Over the last few years, I've read the Bible through, I think 5 or 6 times now. And in doing that, it's really challenged me, and it's challenged some of the things that I possibly thought to be, or my reading of the Bible, and allowed me to realise there may be more than one way of reading some parts. And so now I think I still have strong opinions, but I hold them a little bit lighter than I did. And I'm actually quite happy to interact with people who maybe read it differently. I now see that as interesting and not a conflict thing. I just see it interesting where people are coming from. It doesn't always change my own opinion, but I enjoy that. I enjoy the fact there are differences in those readings of the Bible. So as elders in the church, one of our roles is to look at subjects that are maybe tricky subjects where society is changing or society's views are changing. And we have to look at how the church relates to those changing views. Because if we don't do that, we'll end up becoming irrelevant. We'll hold views as society changes, and it's really important as a church that we don't have to change our opinions, but we need to make sure we're able to speak into those situations in a way that society recognises and is relevant to society. So one of those subjects that we've been looking at as elders is same-sex relationships, and particularly now same-sex marriages, now that they're fully part of society and recognised in society and in law. And as elders, we've gone through a really interesting process looking at where people are coming from, their own different views on the subject, their own sort of theology, how they've read the Bible and read into it, and actually then talking to the staff team, to wider communities, and exploring obviously where we have common views, but also where we actually have different views. That might be just because of our own personal beliefs, it might be because of our church upbringing or our family upbringing, or people that we know, our friends, or people in our family come from different situations, and they all come together to give a real wide spectrum of views on this one subject. But actually, despite all those different views, it does not mean there has to be conflict in that. So we've managed to address those views and actually explore it as a positive thing, and being clearer on what we're united on, understanding that the differences there might be significant differences, but they're not critical to the fact that we can work together. We still work together well as a team, we still worship together on a Sunday, we still pray together, we still pray for each other, even though we hold different views on some matters. So what's important for me is that, particularly when people come on a Sunday morning, but actually in all parts of how they experience the Forge, is that even though people might have different opinions to me, that it's really important that when they come in, they are completely welcomed, and those differences in opinion don't affect the fact that we can come together, worship together, and be part of the church community together, united in what we do believe, which is that around Jesus Christ and what he did for us. When people come in, the things we disagree on shouldn't be a blockers for their experience. And that means that we all need to hold what we believe lightly enough that we can welcome and really be in community with people who have different opinions. And that requires us all to work hard to make sure we're truly welcoming, because if we want to be a church that the unchurched feel comfortable, church community that the unchurched want to be part of, we must be accepting of people who have different opinions, and that can't be a blocker for them to be a part of that community, which we want them to be, feel truly welcomed in.